Now whether it's a racetrack or the front yard, that's a good overview of how I like to do it. Hi guys, Brett here from Hearns, and today I'd like to talk to you about servicing, maintaining and cleaning your ready to run car, and in particular I've got here a VRX Bullet. Now I had this one out on the weekend and did about 7 batteries, so I figure that's pretty typical use of what people are going to do with it. But now this is what we do afterwards, how we take care of it, things we look at it that might be wrong. So I'm going to jump right in. First thing we'll do, we'll get the body off. We'll check for any major damage. Usually when we come back, and see here it's got a few bumps and scrapes underneath. Probably really reflective because it's so nice and shiny. But effectively the car is straight, square and all in one piece. All the wheels are spinning nice and smooth. There's no abnormal noises or anything. And when I stopped playing with it the other day, it was operating 100% the way it's supposed to. So I'm going to go ahead and take the battery out. It's got a really good little retaining system here. We'll put that to the side. Now generally, if I'm not going to use it for a week or so, I will in fact charge the battery back up. So put it back on charge, even if it's not fully charged, half charged, whatever. But yeah, you want some charge in it while it's storage to ensure that it doesn't in fact go too flat. Now I've got my handy little Ninesteps Essential toolkit here. Get the 7mm out. First thing I do is I'll get the wing out the way. These cars are great to service in that they come apart really well and go back together really well. Okay, get the wheels off, be the first thing. There's a lot of dirt, grime, grass in there. If I can get my wheel nut out. Got a handy little parts tray here. Got a washer stuck in the wheel. I want to hold on to that. Now usually when I clean, I'll start from the center of the car and work my way out. But I want to get the wheels off and out the way because they're the biggest hindrance. Okay, now we have the wheels off. So I'm going to go forth. I've got myself a cleaning brush here. Now that can be any paintbrush or whatever. It's nothing particularly high tech. I like to use a nice long one with a soft bristle just to ensure that I can get into all of the nooks and crannies and get these right out. So I'm going to give it a good brush over, like I said, starting from the center of the car and working my way out. Everything's been all well and secured. Now what we're doing here is not only cleaning it visually, but can also check over, getting familiar with the car, and should anything come loose or start to wear out, this is the time where you'll pick it up when you're performing maintenance and cleaning on it. Okay, it's pretty lots of grass play this car had, so it was damp, a little bit sandy, but nothing too filthy. Hasn't been through puddles yet or out in the mud per se. So I'm going to give it a good sweep over like that, get all the initial dirt and all the easy stuff off. Then what I'm going to do, now this part's critical, is I'm going to get my 2mm Allen driver out, 2.5, 2mm. I'm going to take the gear cover off and inspect the gears, the pinion and spur and the motor. Get this off, can see how much easier it is, in fact, to get everything with the wing and the wheels off, and it's only taken a matter of minutes so far. Beautiful. So we've got the gear cover off now. Now it's important that we give it a really good clean around here, because any tiny bits of lodged sand or anything in your gears, particularly the plastic spur gear, will cause a lot of wear and tear, noise and damage. Now I've got my Ninesteps gizmo set here, which is a really handy plastic set of plastic tools that we carry for modeling. Now if you don't have a car stand, you can go ahead and just use the wheels that we've taken off to get the car off of your worktop. And I'm going to go ahead and go over this gear by hand, if you will, the spur gear. I'm going to ensure that there is no pinions, there's no dirt debris within that mesh. We want to make sure that it is tip top and clean to ensure that we get maximum life out of it, efficient running and good speed. So I'm going to go over here, scrape it along, you can see it visually as well, and that is really nice. Now while I've got the gear cover off, the next step I'm going to do is take my 1.5mm Ninesteps hexawrench out and get the pinion gear off of the motor. So that's the aluminium or steel gear, brass in some cases, off the end of the motor. And what's that going to do? That's going to allow me access to the bush on the front of this 540. Now if it's a brushed car, it probably won't be such a concern because it'll be a little ball bearing, but these bushes do require general and constant lubrication to keep running at their best. Now I've got a bit of prototype Ninesteps cleaning putty here that we're working on. Now what I do here is push that in, and you can see it just lifts all the dirt, debris and that away. I want to make sure that that is clean and clear of anything. Got my favorite old toothbrush here. Ensure that that is. I can see here that brass bush is clean and ready for a few drops of lubrication. Now you don't have to flood it, but we've got ourselves some good quality oil here. Put a couple of drops and that's all that's required. Going to work that in, because anything that doesn't go in will just attract dirt and debris to the motor. Fantastic. Got a little cloth here. I just dab off the excess that I've put, and that is beautiful. Now I can go ahead and put the gear back on exactly the same way that we took it off. Do the pinion up on the flat of the motor. Make sure that it's perfectly aligned. You don't need to absolutely wrench on that, but it does need to be firm. Got that done up on the flat of the motor there, and the pinion, it's all done up nice and tight. So what I'll go ahead now and I'll check the gear mesh, and the gear mesh is good in that we've got the tiniest bit of play in here. I don't know if we can see that on camera. Got the tiniest bit of play, and that's what we want. Would be in the tenths of millimeters. Now if you haven't done gear mesh before, it's as simple as potentially using an old bit of like plastic wrapper or something that you've got lying around. You put that in between the two gear faces, push the motor up tight, and away we go. I'll do that now actually. I've got my bit of gizmo plastic here that I opened, this packaging. Doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. Bit of scrap old plastic. We'll undo the motor screws, which is 2.5mm on these bullets. Slide the motor back. Going to feed this bit of plastic in, like that, into the gear set. We've got that little bit of thin plastic jammed in there. We'll ensure that the motor's pulled up tight, and then I'll go ahead and I'll do the screws. There we go. That's going to be tight to get out. And there we have, again, a perfect gear mesh with a simple bit of plastic. Alright, so gear mesh is done, motor's aligned, and we're all back in there. Now the gear case can go back on, the gear case cover, sorry. My 2mm driver. We'll do that back up. Okay, so now the gear case is on. So the front of the motor's been cleaned and oiled. Now it's time to do the rear of the motor. So again, I'll get my Ninesteps cleaning putty and I'll use this because usually I don't want to brush the dirt into the motor, and this really does push on and pulls the dirt away from the component. You can see here I've got a really clean bronze bush. Again, I'll go ahead, couple of drops of oil, and then we'll give that a little spin over where the wheels would go, just across the axle there. There we go, as simple as that. Again, I'll dab it off to ensure that it doesn't run anywhere, and that is done. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to pop the wheels back on, give a quite final little clean around the axles to ensure that the wheels will go on. And while I've got it at this point, we can see here that in fact within the wheels there's a lot of dirt and grime. So I'm going to take my my cleaning spray here. I'm going to give that a little, again it's just a little bit of all-purpose Ninesteps cleaner. Got my favourite old toothbrush here, give that a little scrape off. Okay, so we've got the car dusted off, we've got the wheels and tyres cleaned up, and they're ready to go back on. So the same way that they come off, put them on, locate them on the hex. Got our little lock-in washer. Go ahead with our Ninesteps 7mm wheel wrench. Perfect. Do this rear one while I'm over here. Okay, so now we've got the wheels back on. What I'll do is I'll go ahead, a couple last adjustments that I like to check over. It's critical that we put the battery in for this, and we'll give ourselves a nice flat surface. So I'll in fact take this table mat off, put that on the floor. Now what I'm going to check over here, we won't plug the battery in, it's good practice not to do that, is the ride height. Now in this one, I want the front drive shafts, the rear drive shaft level, and the front arms a little bit above, and that gives the chassis the right attitude when it's sitting for really good balance and handling. Now we've got that. Now another thing that we've had, because it had a few cartwheels and tumbles, is I want to check the camber. Now that is the angle of the wheels to ensure that the wheel alignment is still correct. Now I've got here an Arrowmax camber gauge. So what we can do is put that on. We'll have to ensure that the front wheels are straight, which they are. Got 2 degrees on one side, and we've got a good 2 degrees on the other side, so that is perfect. And we'll do the same on the rear. Now we can ensure now that nothing's moved. Now a handy tip is that if you don't have a camber gauge, but you've got yourself a nice flat surface, what you can use is something as simple as a can of drink. So I won't give you the measurement or the degrees, but you can put that next to your wheel, and as long as they are slightly inward from top to bottom, you know, you're not looking for more than sort of 2 or 3 mil, but you'll get an indication more than anything that all 4 wheels are in fact level. So if you've got one touching the can top and bottom and one pulled in, you know that the wheels are in fact not straight with each other. So it's not about them being straight up and down, it's about them being straight with each other. So you can always use that can of drink trick. So now, battery's back in, we can put the body back on and the wing. Got our simple little wing buttons here. Now these can be a little bit fiddly, but they do make the disassembly and reassembly of the car really, really quite pleasant. Got this one here, body clip on. There we go. Now whether it's a racetrack or the front yard, that's how I clean and maintain my, whether it's a race weapon, bash or ready to run car. That's a good overview of how I like to do it. My name's Brett, thanks for watching.